Hello, everyone. This is Bill Griffin. Welcome to Different Take Podcast. If you like this content, please subscribe, like, share, comment. Really appreciate you watching. New episodes Tuesdays and Thursdays. Kanye West has been in the news lately. I'm not super familiar with Kanye West, but I gather that he is on the, as I am, on the anti-woke side of things. I think there's woke and there's anti-woke, and of course there's people in the middle of maybe, I guess. But it seems like you're either woke or anti-woke. Most people are. One or the other. Kanye West is pretty anti-woke. He was on Tucker Carlson last week. I'm doing this as of October 10th, 22. And a couple days prior to that, he was seen or a few days prior to that, he was seen in T-shirts that said White Lives Matter, along with Candace Owens, conservative commentator. And since then, he's been suspended from Twitter, I guess who hasn't, for saying something critical of Jewish people. The exact quote was, "Going DEFCON 3 on Jewish people." And he was suspended from Twitter. And I'm not going to defend that. I don't know enough about it to, if there was some sort of context. Prior to that, he said it was late. People make mistakes. Should he get suspended from Twitter? Some people will say this is hate speech, and they have. That's the issue with Twitter and what's going on with Elon Musk is this was protected free speech. You can say things that many people find despicable, but if they're not, they don't incite violence or they're not defamatory, you can say them without repercussion, at least legally. Of course, the woke community, they're going to attack you and try to ruin you if you say things that cross, some people call it the woke religion. I want to talk about the coverage on this because I saw, or the coverage is particularly of the T-shirts, and also I think this coverage in the story has something to do with the tweet that happened later. But at any rate, this is from Entertainment Tonight. I didn't even know that was still a thing. But this is from Entertainment Tonight. This aired October 4th, 2022.
Another day, another Kanye West controversy. This time over shirts sporting the phrase, quote, "White Lives Matter."
Well, Paris is the church of fashion.
On Monday, the rapper surprised fans at Yeezy's Paris Week fashion show by posing it up in the design with polarizing conservative commentator Candace Owens.
I believe our government is interested in liberating Ukrainians like I believe that the Black Lives Matter riots were about liberating Black Americans, which is to say, not at all.
The political pundit posted these photos on Twitter, no captions on the pics. It's worth noting the Anti-Defamation League condemns the saying as a, quote, "white supremacist."
So the Anti-Defamation League had a problem with this. I'll get into the coverage. I think the coverage of this that Entertainment Tonight did was at best really sloppy or purposely deceptive. But either way, it's interesting what they did with the coverage. I'll get into this because they quoted some various people and they started the Anti-Defamation League. So the Anti-Defamation League, which combats hate speech and anti-Semitic speech, they had a big problem with this comment, "White Lives Matter." They also, of course, had a big problem, and a lot of people had a big problem with the comment later on Twitter, going DEFCON 3 on Jewish people. But I think it's interesting that if you substitute the word Jewish people for, say, black people, I don't think anybody would have noticed. I don't think there would have been a big thing. I don't think he would have gotten suspended. And if he had said going DEFCON 3 against white people, I don't think anything would have been said either. I think a lot of people are really only see things through a certain prism. As I said before, the woke movement, there's no treat others as you'd like to be treated. There's no benefit of the doubt. You cross the line, you're going to be excoriated. So I get in the coverage of this thing. Here's the next clip from Entertainment Tonight.
Among the backlash, journalist Jamil Hill, who says, quote, "So many folks are trying to excuse Kanye wearing a White Lives Matter t-shirt as just a troll move or marketing, but it's a dangerously dumb message to send for someone with his massive platform."
So there are 4 representatives of the woke community that Entertainment Tonight quote, and there are 0 from the anti-woke community. And of the 4 from the woke community, start with Jamil Hill, who was a television personality. I had to look this up. 12 years on ESPN. Honestly, not familiar with this person, but I looked up their podcast on YouTube. Jamil Hill has 42,000 subscribers, and the average view, or the range of views on her podcast is from 500, not 500,000, 500 views in an episode to usually at most 5,000. So I compare that to I would say, anti-woke podcaster. His name's Greg Foreman. He has the Black Conservative Perspective podcast. He has 454,000 subscribers. I bet the vast majority of Entertainment Tonight that consume this information have no idea that this gentleman exists. He does, I highly recommend him. He has puts out some pretty interesting stuff, and he puts out a lot of videos. Typically, sometimes 3-4 videos a day. And the views on his episodes range from something like 20,000 at minimum, which is 40 times the minimum of Jamil Hill, who has been on television forever. Hardly anyone, this person, Greg Foreman, he doesn't have that kind of exposure prior to getting into the podcasting. It's just amazing to me. As I said, Greg Foreman, we have 20,000 to 355,000. The numbers are staggering. So are not going to talk to someone like him. And there's so many podcasters that do the same, that fall into the anti-woke category. They're not quoting those people. They're only quoting the other people. Here's the next clip.
Anyone with a position of power in entertainment should be held accountable for racism.
Activist Lamont Hill calls Kanye's decision, quote, "disgusting, dangerous, and irresponsible. Some of y'all will rush to defend him. You should ask yourselves."
So here they're quoting Lamont Hill, who has also another person who's had lots of television exposure. He's been on guest on different programs. He's an academic. I think he's at Temple University. Hosted an 8 o'clock primetime show, 8 o'clock on the East Coast, that probably was the lowest cable news program. I think it was the lowest in the channel was the lowest in the country. It's now defunct. It was called Black News Network, I believe. Horrible ratings. No one cares what Lamont Hill has to say other than the woke community who have him on as guests and so forth. Nobody's was interested in his television program or his podcast. The Entertainment Tonight is presenting Jamil Hill, Lamont Hill, there's 2 other people, as influential people. But they're not. Nobody cares what they have to say. Even the woke people don't watch this stuff or listen to it.
Jayden Smith, who says he left the show as soon as the shirts popped up on the runway, sends a simple message, simply tweeting, quote, "Black Lives Matter."
So I didn't know who this person was, but I had to look him up. Jayden Smith, child of the actress Jada Pinkett Smith and Will Smith. So they're presenting this person. I looked up a little bit about his bio. It's a very non-traditional upbringing. I'll just put it that way. Very woke. Very upset, I guess, in this segment here. they're trying to insert, whoever the producer of this segment wanted to insert someone who was representing the young people, I guess. Here's the last clip I want to show you.
While Lathan, host of the Higher Learning podcast, argues, quote, "The notion that it always has to be about white people in America is incredibly frustrating, emotionally draining, and the whole problem." But here's Kanye apparently centering that notion.
So this gentleman, his name is Van Lathan. It's a podcast. Has 6,300 subscribers. As I've said, there are a lot of woke podcasters that a lot of people have never heard of. I'm not talking about Ben Shapiro or very household names. I'm talking about there are a ton of people that have much, much larger audiences than this gentleman. His views range at the low of 500,000 to the highest one I saw, without going too deep, was 29,000. That happened to be with a podcast with Jamil Hill. So, entertainment tonight. I don't know. I don't watch that stuff. I guess there's a place for it for people that are interested in entertainment news. And I suppose this is sort of a story for that kind of program. But that Kanye West is wearing this shirt. But why aren't you showing people that have an opinion from the anti-woke side? But they're not going to do that because they want you to think this is a given. Or they believe that it's a given, that Kanye West is in the wrong, he's horrible for wearing the shirt, so forth and so on. So I think it's just another example of how people ought to consume information that they can trust. And how can you trust something when you don't want to show both sides of an issue? I don't think you can, because there's definitely the other side. It doesn't take long to see that there's plenty of other voices out there that don't go along with the woke orthodoxy. So that's my episode for today. I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you for watching. If you like this content, please subscribe. And thank you again.